Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most important aspects of a spiritual life. It's something that so many people overlook, and it's nurturing a vision. So what's a vision in this context? What am I talking about? A vision is an idea, a potential manifestation, or even a dream that you had, like a sleeping dream. You have this idea, and it feels potent. It feels like it's something about your future or an image, like a gift to you. But it's received. It's something you feel like your intuitive senses received from the spiritual world, from your higher self, whatever you want to call it. Like an insight or a download. It can come through in meditations, dreams, or just one day hits you, or even and often in plant medicine journeys or other type of expanded state work. But often people get caught up in chasing the high of another vision and visionary states. And there can be a season of that, don't get me wrong. There can be seasons where we're seeking a big vision, but after a while, it starts to feel emptier and emptier, and here is why. It's because we don't spend enough energy bringing that vision to life. We spend too much energy trying to get vision, new inspiration, and not enough trying to cultivate the discipline and practice of bringing vision to life. So before we go any further, I want to introduce myself. I'm Avery. I'm an intuitive spiritual guide. I've spent years working with people one-on-one and in group settings to access spiritual insight via mediumship, readings, energy healings, mentorships, and I've worked with so many people also integrating and utilizing plant medicine journeys. There's amazing takeaways from all of my years of experiences, and I want to share one of the major ones today and how to work with nurturing your spiritual vision. But if you like this content and you want more, before we move on, check the link in the description and subscribe to my newsletter to get more deep insight, understand more about my work and my practices. But let's get back to the message today. So in all the years helping people to get a clear vision, the ones who got the most out of it are the ones who took the prompts to act on it. In my work, there's always guidance that comes through that is actionable. It doesn't have to be some big plan. It doesn't have to be hard, but there's always something to follow up, something to give into that energy. And then what I find is that usually unfolds into more energy, more things to follow, more steps to take to unfold this idea. And vision is really a feeling too. There's just this life force to it. So the people that didn't get the most out of it are people who just want to feel the energy and hear the words. And don't get me wrong, that's nice. Sometimes we just want to feel connected. We just want to hear some support, guidance. We just want our intuition validated. But it's not always as potent to just clear confusion, right? We want to take these energies and move them forward into our life. Vision is like the blossoming of a flower. It's meant to grow fruit, to drop its seeds. It's meant to start new things. It's meant to expand, right? When we blossom, we open, we have these beautiful experiences, something comes in and we just feel nourished and cultivated, and that is so important. But I know myself, I've often gotten stuck there. And so as I spend time bringing it to life and others spend time bringing it to life, more can unfold. So for example, I had a client and she connected with a parent in spirit, meaning on the other side, no longer in their physical body. And they had a lot of issues in life, and they had a really strained relationship, and so feeling their presence was something that felt really complicated. While some people like, oh, I know they're there, it's like, I don't know if they're supposed to be there. And I'd worked with this person for a long time before we even opened this door. So as we connected with this parent, there was so much love, so much healing, so much support coming through in who they were then. That was the vision. But the action was they wanted her to get a picture of them out again, because they kind of hadn't, because it created these mixed emotions, and they thought that was a great thing. But what happened was, as they were looking for that picture, they found a whole photo album of pictures. And now they hadn't looked at that photo album for years, and then when they looked at it, the emotions portrayed in the pictures were so different than how they had remembered their childhood. And suddenly they had this realization that there was more than the story they were holding. There was more than just the pain. Now, it didn't say that there was never any pain. It was this chance to let go of the pain that they'd been working with for years and to step into the story of the good things again. Right? And that's working with the vision. And now after they did that, their body started to feel better. They started to feel like a different person. She felt freer. And all of a sudden, this parent was able to come to them and connect to them. And little signs and things kept unfolding. And what would have happened if they thought, maybe I'll put that picture out? It would have been nice. And now I imagine Spirit will continue to nudge. Don't worry if you're resistant. I'm resistant at times too. We'll continue to nudge. But eventually, we have to follow through. So another example is my own vision. So years ago, I was in an expanded state. I was on a medicine journey. And in that state, I was able to just suddenly connect to energy and speak on behalf of things I didn't know about. I just knew all of these things, and I was speaking on behalf of things I wasn't even aware who it was or how it was, but I had all this information. I had all this information for the people around me in the room, and it was so natural and it felt amazing. And at this point in time, prior to that, like I had my intuition, I kind of read people, but I didn't have that ability. And I came down from that, and I had some access to it, but it wasn't immediately available to that degree. That was my visionary state. But I chose to believe that it didn't only exist in a really expanded state. It just currently only existed there. And that pathway was available, that was a glimpse. And that's what I believe about any vision, especially medicine journey visions. They are glimpses. Now, some of them are really out there, so we have to be wise about translating those glimpses. But still, I could feel that this was a dip into a version of reality that I had access to. And so I spent years cultivating that access. And then what happened was one day I realized I was in it. I was in the vision. I'm doing that for clients all the time. I don't have to think a lot about it. I don't have to translate all these things. I can just drop in and suddenly I'm talking and I know what these beings are saying. When I didn't hear it first, I didn't feel it. It just came out. And there I was my vision. And I took classes and followed signs and cultivated it. But more than anything, I sat with the idea of that vision. And that's what mattered the most, was sitting with the idea of the vision. So if you have a vision or idea, I want to give you some guidance on how to work with it. Just some simple steps. The first one, of course, write it down. Now, write it down if you haven't already done it. And if you already have, write it down again. I want you to imagine as though that vision's coming to you now. Because these visionary states, they are like art, the idea of art before it's painted. They exist in the spiritual realm. They're alive and potent there, and we have access to them in the now, right? And so by wanting to write it down, I want you to write it as though you're just now receiving it and see if new insight comes in. So first you may write what you remember, and then I want you to write what you might now remember, that you're suddenly recalling, that you think about it now. It is still there. And this is a good practice to keep revisiting, right? Second, find a way to access the feeling of the vision. The most important thing, the most powerful thing in creating and manifesting and working spiritually is both the mental focus upon something and the emotional tone of it. And now, any spiritual vision, especially if it feels like a vision, not just an idea or a thought or an image, it comes in with emotion and it feels a certain way. And I want you to find either meditation, breath work, movement, walks, anything where you feel into that. So for my vision, it would have been feeling this flow through me, feeling like words and insight and information was just available. I didn't have to try. And I might not have been able to immediately do it, but I still would have been cultivating this idea of that state. Now, the third thing I recommend is to intend to receive insight on actionable steps. So what does that mean? Often we hold this vision and we think it's ours to figure out how to get there, but the intention and the invitation for spiritual guidance to show up for you brings it. Of course, it's always trying to show up, but it's our mind has to focus. There's so much content and we're asking for so many other things like, what's the news saying? So then everyone tells us about that, or we're putting our mind somewhere else. So that intention really narrows our focus in order to receive the insight that is already there, that is trying to come through. Of course, sometimes it breaks through anyway, even if you're distracted, but often we've got to work at it. So intend to receive guidance. Ask the vision, ask whatever you believe is supporting you in this life to help give you the next actionable steps. And now our spiritual practice needs to go to stepping into that vision, feeling it, and then tuning in to the ways in which you're meant to nurture it. So divining insight on how you're supposed to show up for it in that day, in that moment, in that season. Sometimes it's be still and just be with the vision, and sometimes it's go to this cafe. You're like, that what? Just do it, right? And if you don't feel like there's any actionable steps, do things you're curious about. We don't always get clear, this is what you need to do guidance, even as an intuitive. I get that for other people, but in my own life, it's still sometimes just my curiosity, my desires, my new interest, this idea that keeps coming up. Look around for anything like that and follow it. At the end of the day, you'll have an interesting experience. You can't lose, right? So follow that. Take these steps that come to you. If you feel very overwhelmed, then the step is to sit with that and process and slow down, but intend to move forward. Make plans to move forward. Give yourself the space and time to where it feels comfortable, but make plans to move forward. So if all of this speaks to you, if this really resonates with you, I hope you take this information and really move with it. But if you're like, I need to get clearer on my vision, or I don't even feel like I have a vision anymore, check out the link to my website. Let's work together. I am ready to help you get clear on your vision. I love helping people see their bigger picture, move the debris, feel whole and connected, and to support you in making sure that you are nurturing that vision, you're taking that action, and that you feel clear on it. So let's do that together, because you're ready and I'm ready. And if you're not ready for that, check out my newsletter, get more insight, follow along on YouTube. Let's do this together and share any thoughts you have, questions, but most importantly, nurture your visions. Don't be a vision chaser. Be a creator.